Everybody go home after the first quarter, first half? All right, they missed a good one. Their loss.
Hey, what can you say about your team, just the effort?
Resilient, tough, physicals, everything we talked about over the last couple of weeks. This is a team that reflects, as I just shared with them, it's a team that reflects the city of New Orleans. It's to have pride, resiliency, toughness, physicality, never drop the sword mentality, no woe is me. We just get back to it, and we talked about it at halftime. We've been here before. We just saw this performance against San Antonio. What are we going to do about it? And, give Herb a ton of credit. He was a major part of turning that game. But that's who he is. And we want to reflect what this city is about. And this group is doing that. To see this community and everybody come together in the Smoothie King Center like that was just special for our guys. They've worked so hard.
And Saddiq Bey had a really big game. Just kept coming up with play after play on offense. What can you say about his performance tonight?
He's been incredible all year. He's built for these moments. Doesn't shy away from it. He made big shots, timely shots. He was fantastic. And I know that group was gassed, and they gave us everything they had. I just kept rolling with them. There's some substitution conversation going on, but I was going to ride with that group, and Saddiq was great. Gave us everything he could, and we'll get him a cold bath. Get him in the cold bath and get those legs ready. And but he was special tonight.
And obviously, Saddiq's play made it a lot easier, but the decision to roll with those guys instead of putting Zion back in fourth quarter OT, just kind of what went into that thinking and how tough is
that group was rolling. That group was rolling, and these are tough decisions. It's gonna be like this every night. Who do you go with? And that group had momentum, and I tend to stick with momentum. And again, we had conversation along the way, but and at some point, the whole group had been sitting there for a bit. We could have tried to bring somebody in off the bench cold, but I just thought that group, we had enough timeouts. There was enough rest with the overtime break to roll with them, and that's what we did.
And just how do you put into words what Herb was able to do in that second half, defending KD, getting all of those steals?
We turned the whole game, I think he had 8 steals. I don't know how many were in the second half, but he turned the game with his physicality and aggression and energy, and he was phenomenal tonight. He was phenomenal. We don't even come close to turning that game without him. And but everybody collectively, we just swarmed the ball. DQ was up in the pick and roll and trapping, and Saddiq was down there. I'm sure Jose made a few plays. They were battling on the board. There's going to be a number of plays that none of us saw that we just came up with a 50-50 ball or battling on the board down there somehow, some way, obtaining the ball. So just really proud of this group to keep fighting, and it started with Herb Jones.
And considering just how tough the first few months of the season were and how many tough losses you guys had to deal with, winning 3 straight, getting a win like this, what does it do for your group?
Well, we're not looking back at that. We're past that. We're building an identity. It's about now. The past is the past. We don't sit there and woe is us and look at our record. We get up the next morning, we get back to work. Same thing tomorrow. We're going to enjoy this tonight, and tomorrow it's about getting back to work. It's about the process, looking at what we did well, what we did poorly, but nobody's looking back. We're looking forward. There's a lot of season ahead of us, and I just look forward to growing with this group. And tonight, I thought we took a major step forward, and now the goal is to keep our foot on the gas. Don't look back. Look forward. Stay together. There's room for improvement off tonight. Obviously, that first half is going to teach us some lessons. When we watch the film, we own it, and we get better.
I felt like this is one of the more complete performances that we've seen from Derek Queen and against a guy like Alfred Schengen.
Yeah.
What can you say about his play in the second half?
Well, he stood the test. They were going back and forth at each other, and he held his ground. Was able to make some big plays in the paint. I thought he improved as the game went along. And I think DQ tends to do that. I'm learning this kid, but he, as the game, gets further down the line, he tends to step up. He likes the big moments, and he responded extremely well. And that's a tough cover. Sengun is one of the best centers that you're going to ever go against, and he held his own. Obviously, there's things to learn there, and there's some growth there. You know, we weren't perfect all night, but to see him stand there and battle possession by possession, make big plays, big shots, big rebounds, big blocks, that was a step forward for the young fella.
How important has it been just Herb and Trey really stepping into that role as leaders, as being the guiding force for these guys as they kind of get more comfortable? Obviously, Herb getting healthier. How big has that been, those guys really stepping to the forefront?
Well, those guys have been here. I mean, you know, they're pillars of this organization. They've been doing this, you know, even before I was here. You know, these guys were major pieces, and obviously they're growing into their roles. And I'm really proud of that they've stepped into these leadership roles. And I'm seeing that in the form of communication, keeping us steady, not getting too high, too low, just coming and doing our work. And, you know, in a timeout, making sure we're settled, that's leadership. And, you know, throughout this year, we've needed that through the highs and the lows, and they've kept us steady. I think it's been a steady leadership. Both become more vocal. They're taking ownership of this team. To be a good team in this league, you have to have players, whether they're young, old, vets, step into that and take ownership of the team. Both those guys are doing that.